Welcome to the Future of Ground Transportation podcast, where we discuss the exciting innovations that lie ahead for organizational ground transportation. Each episode, we cover topics tailored to those resolving transportation-related challenges and provide tips, tools, and trends that will inspire you to stay ahead of the curve. And now, here's your host, Daniel Perez.
Welcome to the Future of Transportation. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Will Waller with Kyndryl Transportation. Welcome, Will.
Hey, thank you, Daniel, for having me. I appreciate it.
It is our pleasure having you in the show tonight. So let's get started. Will, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get started in the transportation, and a little bit of background about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Sure. So, really getting started in transportation marketplace goes back to supply chain. Early in my career, working on supply chain algorithms, and a lot of MRP folks will know milk runs. So, companies would go out and make these milk runs of pickups for like aerospace defense parts, and come back into the factory, and how to modernize that, how to make those more efficient, remove paper. So that's really kind of how I got started in that avenue of transportation.
Awesome.
And yeah,
Tell
me and
us.
my little background, I started off with General Dynamics and Lockheed Martin, and did a lot of the what we call industrial modernization improvement projects. And that's where we had a lot of transportation activities with supply chain and efficiency and MRP. My wife and I, we live in Rendon, Texas, which is a suburb of Fort Worth, Texas. And we have one son who also, by the way, has a small truck outfitting business. So got several things going on.
That's awesome. So tell me, nowadays, moving forward, what crucial roles that does your organization and yourself played in the transportation space?
Yeah, thanks. So Kyndryl, KD, we're a global systems integrator, and one of the things that we focus on are bringing value to clients to help them with their business challenge. So for a trucking company, how do you decrease your operating ratio? How do you increase efficiency? How do you focus on things that innovation and technology could assist you in, when normally manpower would take you, a long time to get the effect of? So how can you take advantage of some of the emerging technology like Internet of Things, uh, devices, postage stamp size devices that would like attach to a truck and give you insights to what's happening in that vehicle, the health of it, the speed, weight, acoustic, sounds, and then enable you to take advantage of that to help your business be more healthy. So Kyndryl, as system integrator, will take different products and capabilities and integrate them on the transporter's behalf, whether you're in shipping, or you're a shipper or freight forwarder or logistics or over the road trucking.
Got it. Thank you, Will. So for a little bit of context, educate us on the latest set of technologies and initiatives that you guys have when it comes to technology. You mentioned Internet of Things. Uh, Dumb it down for us. How will you describe the technologies, and especially the ones that could benefit? Whether I'm operating a logistical company, trucking, buses, and so forth, for large or small fleets.
Yeah. So Daniel, think of for a second, if you're looking at a map, a digital map, and uh, it's a map of your area that you normally operate in. Now imagine dots on the map that are green, mostly green, red, yellow, and they're spread all over this map that you're looking at. And as a transportation company, it's good to know where your assets are, where your people are, the freight that you're hauling, and be able to quickly determine if you have a 60 fleet, a six truck fleet, or 6,000 fleet, to be able to look at that geographic representation and see all the green dots, but be able to have somebody focus on the yellow dots. So, as an example, if you have an indicator that the battery is going low on that particular vehicle, maybe it's there's a sensor that says it's a 10% life. That tells you that you need to do some preventative maintenance so that the next run, the driver doesn't end up having an outage, and then you have to send another truck, trades the battery, or offload. So the things that we're doing that we see most applicable right now in the industry are giving those insights to the transportation company to know the health of their fleet as well as health of the driver, and provide proactively the best routes and healthy equipment so that you can avoid interruptions.
Got it. Thank you, Will. And how much details can that device actually provide the operator in regards to the health of the truck or bus? When it comes to battery, electrical issues, is it alternators, problems with the engine? What is it?
So the good thing today is a lot of the trucks that are coming out are smart, meaning that they have some of these detectors that were installed at the factory versus you installing them aftermarket onto the vehicle. But there's acoustic detectors that can detect sound, like sound of the engine. Is there a miss? You can detect the inflation in the tires, the weight of the vehicle, the speed, different aspects of force. So turning a corner, actuators can determine is a corner being turned too sharp, uh, and be able to pick those up. Now it's up to the human for us to decide, well, that's out of tolerance. That weight is too much. But they can give us the raw feeds in order for us to determine. And one of the things we can do is embed analytics or computer programs that can detect that reading, and we can say, "Hey, this weight starts getting into a yellow zone, and this weight or this speed is to a red zone." And one step further, what we're seeing now is really taking advantage to help the human. Our best asset in any trucking company is the human. And I read a statistic recently, Daniel, that said 26% of supply chain or logistic company employees are not totally satisfied with their job. So one of the things that we can do is take some of the simple biometric readings. What's the health of that employee? Their heart rate, their temperature, and feed that back along with the truck so that we know our employees are, being healthy, and they're in good shape. And if there's any stress, we can proactively help that employee as well as we could a vehicle.
Got it. So did you mention, Will, there's a way for you guys to test the health of the employee as well?
Yeah, so we can tap into biometrics that even like a watch that has biometric readings. We have sensors that can go on the helmet. Many of the sensor providers that can determine a drop, so like a sudden uh, drop in the uh, uh, latitude, geometric drop. So a sudden drop says, "Hey, this employee may have fallen," and it can send the signal, as well as location of where that employee is to the vehicle to make sure that everything's good.
Hmm. Yeah, that is super impressive. I mean, two things that come to my mind is we manage about 100 vehicles ourselves, about 100 buses, and there's always the constant complaints that we have from our fleet managers. It's like, hey, we have this bus that the battery died at the last minute, and now we're running late for a job. It's like, hey, how come we're not being proactive and knowing that 2 weeks before that this bus, the battery was going to die or the alternator was going to die. So now we didn't have, we could have avoided all this friction with the client within our operation. So I appreciate you sharing that. Does that integrate with other systems? I know that a lot of the operators here uses some Sarah, which is one of the most known GPS providers there. Does that you guys have the capability to integrate with other GPS systems, or how does that work with you
Yeah,
guys?
absolutely. So we take that Sarah feed in with any other geo tagging, geolocating information, and can provide a kind of a dashboard to uh, the company leader or the transportation manager or even human resources that says, here's here's where that person is, here's what the readings are, here's the Sarah inputs, and then, you know, mix that with your key business measures like location. Is that vehicle and that person somewhere that's off the grid that they may need help or maybe in distress? So we can take all the different GPS readings and the different manufacturers. That's one of the things we really specialize in as an integrator, is being able to take the different types of feeds because they're not all the same, right? Every equipment manufacturer kind of has their own uh, style, their own method of communicating, uh, even with signals, different uh, GPS, wireless signals, and band restrictions. So we can take all those feeds and then blend them for the insights, because just the data itself doesn't really help you, Daniel, kind of like you're saying with the battery, but bringing that in to say, hey, you need to take a look at this. And so that's what we really specialize in.
Got it. And tell me about the current challenges that you guys that are currently facing when it comes to transportation.
Well, I think um, a lot of the challenges are related to um, kind of emerging technology. So, what we've been talking about could broadly be summarized as telematics. So, it's things that are telemetry data, things about that vehicle or that person, the telematics that are being processed. And so, there's a lot of different communication protocols, different ways to communicate. So, that's one of the big challenges that that we've been focused on addressing for our clients. And of course, a lot of the or some of the clients have autonomous vehicles, so communicating, uh, direction and route optimization, and getting that feedback from the autonomous vehicles. That's a big. Wouldn't call it a challenge, but it's something that we've been helping address because as the trend goes on to address more in sustainable transportation, bringing all those elements together and kind of, we call it bridging a lot of these daily elements. So like Kyndryl Bridge. So is an offering that we have where we can bridge in multiple inputs to give you the best decision making capability.
Got it. So you mentioned autonomous vehicles, which is a huge topic of us here. Obviously, we're talking about the future of transportation. So tell us a little bit about what is that you guys you mentioned bridging, but what is it that you guys doing on the autonomous side and just in that sort of optics there when it comes to autonomous vehicles?
So I think we're reaching a tipping point, Daniel, for the autonomous vehicle really coming into the forefront. And the reason I say a tipping point, because right now autonomous vehicles are not the majority that are out on the road. So if you have a truck going down the road or a bus, and it's autonomous or has driver assisted, and it's primarily autonomous, it's one vehicle by itself. But now we're starting to see, the second, the third. So as the market is propagating more autonomous vehicles, now we're talking vehicle to vehicle about lane change and hazards. So I think what I see is a tipping point that will be reached in maybe the next 24 months, where we see more autonomous vehicles, both self-driver, independent, personal, along with corporate, and that's going to make decision making a lot better on routes to take, uh, any restraints that might be ahead, precautions we need to take. So having that confluence is going to be a big part. The second thing to your question I see starting is what I call platooning. So if we have one truck that's carrying a cargo load, and maybe it's driver assisted, and then we have a second truck and a third truck behind that, and they're all taking cues from the lead truck. It's kind of like a platoon, like from the army.
Wow.
So you almost kind of have a train on the highway, and you have driver assisted in the front, and then they're taking cues from the back. So you have human in the loop to help with safety and increase efficiency, and maybe a dual driver so you can trade off. But now you have two, three, four trucks in a line, all taking a cue from the lead vehicle. So kind of call that a platoon.
That is awesome. And what technologies are enable this to actually come into the forefront based on what you're seeing?
Yeah, so I see uh, the cloud providers, the cloud providers that are linking in the different communication protocols. They're allowing us to get visibility into that first vehicle, the second vehicle, the third vehicle, and then communication between the two. What I'd call the telematics, being able to communicate machine to machine of where I'm at and the speed and what I'm seeing. So taking advantage of some of the electronic vehicle manufacturer guardrails that they have in place and their products, taking advantage of that to empower trucking companies and bus companies to leverage those insights to a greater degree.
Well, thank you, Will. And how many years? You mentioned 24 months. Because I always ask, if you had a crystal ball, how many years until we see autonomous vehicles either dominating the marketplace?
So I do think it's, around 24, 36 months. There are some sub segments today. So I call it mid mile delivery. So there's some companies from their distribution standpoint that are major non-store retailers that have their mid-mile drops between distribution centers. There's a couple providers that are actually 100% autonomous right now. So they have a route and they have the trucks and they get loaded up and they'll make their run mid-mile from center to center for distribution, autonomously. Um, but we need to continue to advance. Companies are making investments in that. So I do think it's going to be, probably 24, 36 months before we start to see that kind of become a predominant trend.
Got it. Got it. That's very well said. What will you say about either drivers or the workforce that are relying on, obviously, you know, driving, whether it's trucks or buses? Do you think this positions are going to become extinct at one point, or do you think we're still going to need drivers to oversee the machine and the technology overall?
So personally, I don't see that it's a displacement. And here's the reason why. Um, there's a element of empathy and common sense, right? So empathy is a human emotion that the drivers, have to understand the environment. They can pick up and detect things that the computer system just can't. So I call it human in the loop. So there'll be humans in that loop of making deliveries and pickups and driving the routes. And there's certain areas that are not as well documented that need, that human intuition. But I think that the human empathy part, really plays a role in distinguishing that driver in his or her career. And then if you have that human in the loop consistently, now there's other job opportunities that are going to open up. How to train the systems, how to assist training other drivers. So I definitely did not see that job role would be replaced by a computer at any point in this process.
Got it. Thank you, Will. And when it comes to smart roads or flying vehicles, anything that comes to your top of mind?
So there has been some recent progress in what we call eVTOLs, electronic vertical takeoff and landing, in the human short distance transportation space, like airport, small municipal airport, maybe going from one um, uh, landing area to another or zone or even to another municipal. But it's pretty emerging. I think it's going to take a while for the technology to be sustained and sufficient, and really the market to be acceptance. I think the safety is there. I think the companies that are developing the systems are really on point with the offerings that they have. But I think the uptick in market acceptance of the traveler, for most part, is going to be, it's going to take a little while. However, there's a segment of that market in the traveler who want that. They're going to opt in for that. It's going to be quicker, less wait time. They're going to get to their flight quicker. So I do see kind of a bifurcation in the market where there's some that are going to opt for that, and maybe even providers who have that option could get a greater share of the wallet than providers who don't offer maybe a electronic autonomous, electronic vehicle takeoff.
Yeah, that's very well said. Well, and I appreciate you sharing your perspective. Just last week, I was having a debate with my 18-year-old son. Obviously, at 18, you think you're always right, and he's like, "Oh no, the autonomous vehicles and flying vehicles are 20 years far away from us." I'm like, "There's no way." Based on all the industry experts and thought leaders that we had here in the podcast, everyone foresees anywhere from 5 to 10 years the most. You have been the one that has been the most aggressive around the 2 years or 3 years, but I do agree. It's like the winter time is coming. It's always is right around the corner.
Yeah, I think the middle mile delivery space. I think of a dock and a warehouse where the vehicle comes in and we know what's on that. We know what's in the container, every package. We know the MSDS contents, the consist list of everything, and it can pull up, get automatically verified and validated, sends it to the right dock, and the dock worker can supervise the load and unload. And then when we go to reload that container, we load it in a way that's smart. So we know which rack needs to be loaded first based upon the optimized delivery path so that we're not unloading containers at the next location, because our stuff was at the front. So I think this all kind of comes into play, and the more it starts happening, I think the timetable will start, increasing.
100% agree. And what are the products or technology that you are most excited about or proud of right now for you in particular?
Yeah. So for me, uh, the advanced logistics aspect of, like a forklift driver knowing what crate to pick up and which order to pick and pack and place in the container for the truck coming in. We already know what's on that truck and can do a thumbprint or facial rec and say, hey, visually, we know who this driver is. We know the vehicle. We know what the contents are. They need to go to dock 4, or in an intermodal facility, they know exactly where their pickup spot is. And the reason I bring that up is because it helps us with safety of the driver. Because if you can imagine, you pull up to a gate and you may end up walking a mile, going to the dock office. Here's what I'm delivering, which bay should I be at? Coming back to the vehicle. Now you got other trucks that are in the area coming, going. There's a lot of accidents that happen. So if we can keep that driver safe and protected, I think that's, a number one thing. And then natural language translation. In fact, I wrote a perspective paper on that not too long ago. A lot of our drivers are not first language English, but a lot of the receiving personnel maybe. And so, if we can help that driver feel more comfortable and be able to have language interpretation where we can allow them to flourish and be safe and communicate what they need to, I think those are some technologies that are really going to help our whole logistics community as a whole.
Got it. Thank you. And how do you foresee that language interpretation in the trucking or in the bus industry? Like, give me an example if you will.
Yeah. So, for example, I'm pulling up to a dock. I can speak into a device, and that device is then going to automatically transact the receipt or the shipping point delivery of the contents on the freight without me having to explain what all the contents are. So being able to use that device first, log waybill, 649, and whatever language I'm talking in, it automatically translates that and then gives that to the receiving person. So a lot of the handheld devices, there's companies out there that do a great job of that. We work with a company named Weavix. There's others, and I think helping that driver and receiving clerks and safety clerks being able to have kind of ubiquitous communication. I think it improves our whole, well-being and safety and productivity. So we're getting more done quicker and in a safer way, and we're avoiding key punch data entry.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. Well, switching a little bit of the subjects, what is the best business advice you ever gotten?
Let's see, this best business advice I ever got was listen, and it was probably from my dad. My dad was a car man, World War II veteran. Grew up on the farm, and he said, if you will listen to your customer, your spouse, your employer, if you'll just really listen, uh, you know, they'll tell you what that they need, and that's going to help you succeed. Don't listen for an opportunity of somebody to stop talking so that you can tell them what you want to tell them. Really active listen. So I think that was probably the best business advice that I've ever got.
Listen. Well said. Well said. Thank you. And what is your best book that you would recommend to your listeners based on your experience?
Yeah, thanks. So this little book is called "Being a Servant Leader," um, and there's been several iterations of it, and that's really what I have adopted my leadership style to, is in terms of serving and understanding others. So if somebody is not performing, let's listen, let's serve them, let's understand what's the inhibitor. Maybe it's the guideline or the rule that's causing that person to miss their objective. And it was some objective that was set in place, 20 years ago that got inherited. So, really seeking to understand what's going on. So, if you serve others first in a leadership role, then I think everything else takes care of itself.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. And before we conclude, I forgot to ask you a question about predictive maintenance. I know you mentioned about having sort of a dashboard to see, hey, these trucks are in red, this ones are in yellow, this ones are in red. It requires the most attention. But is there anything else within the technology capabilities that you see on the forefront to be more proactive before they turn into the yellow or the red that fleets and transportation managers could mitigate?
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. So, um, if I could, I'd like to use kind of a railroad example. So, if we have a sensor that's speed and it detects the speed of a rail car, and we also have a sensor that detects heat, we can determine the heat that's generating on a brake. And if we have a sensor that's acoustic, that's determining how the wheel sounds as it's going down the track. Each one of those are rules. So independently, I'm kind of within margin. But the technology now that's coming to the forefront is being able to take all those single yes no rules and put them together in compound logic that says, hey, if I put all these together, I'm trending in a really bad direction. So my truck, independently with looking at one detector, I'm okay. But when I put them together, it's bad. And maybe I'm going into an area cross country and I'm fixing to go into an uphill condition and it's maybe 120 degrees where I just came out of the valley and it was 60 degrees. I can't keep this trend up. I need to do something proactively to help this driver be safe and not have an interruption in service. So I think the cognitive capability of the technology to take all these different rules and environmental factors and bring them together is going to help us be more efficient as transportation providers.
Got it. Yeah, that's very well said. And well, would it be just one device, multiple devices based on the vehicle type? Like, how do you foresee that solution there?
Yeah, I think it's a device type per um, uh, uh, per the um, per the vehicle, right? So you have wheels in motion, you have engine, you have heat on brakes, you have the human factor, you have the environmental factors of surface conditions, rain, heat. So different devices for each one of the elements of the vehicle being measured, and then the environmental conditions. So there'd be multiple Internet of Thing devices that are sensing and sending a signal.
Got it. Perfect. Hey, well, thank you for sharing so much wisdom, so much knowledge. It was a pleasure having you in the future of transportation. For all the listeners that are listening to us tonight, how can they stay in touch with you?
Well, Daniel, you can reach me on LinkedIn, Will Waller. I'd be glad to respond to any questions that you may have, or you could send me a direct email at will.waller@kyndryl.com. Be glad to provide any insights that might be helpful about what's going on with technology and innovation in transportation.
Perfect. Thank you. We will also put all Will's information on the show's episode. And again, stay tuned for our next guest. Will, it was a pleasure having you. Thank you so
Daniel,
much.
thank you and your audience. I appreciate being here. It was great fun.
Thank you. Have a great day. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed the episode and got some valuable insights. If you're curious to learn more, head over to the resource website at dpvtransportation.com, where we got a ton of useful resources and tools for you to stay ahead of the game. And before we wrap it up, I want to invite you to book a free gas emission consultation or a consultation about your ground transportation program with us. Just register on our website is a fantastic way to see how your fleet is doing or how your overall program could be improved. Thanks again for joining us, and we will catch you next time on the future of ground transportation. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to the future of ground transportation. We appreciate you coming along for the ride. If you found value in this episode and want to hear more, please make sure to subscribe to the show.